Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about how we use libraries in C and in C++. And the first thing you really need to understand is that in C and C++ there are essentially two kinds of libraries that you will see frequently. The most common kind of libraries are libraries that are going to require both header file and object files, which are the most common kind of libraries you're going to run into in C++. And the second kind of libraries that you will run into are libraries that essentially only require header files in order to function. And what we are going to talk about today is the simplest kind of libraries that you might have, which are the kind of libraries that only require header files. And in that category, the library that I use the most often and that I will demo today is this library called rapidjson. RapidJSON is essentially a library that is going to help us parse JSON files in a way that is pretty straightforward. So if you do not know what the JSON is, it is essentially an interchange format that is mostly used by people that are doing webby things. It comes out of JavaScript, and it's essentially a generic file format that is going to represent how objects are going to work and how objects are being described. So you see, it's a textual format that lets you describe object, and here that object is going to have multiple property. One is hello, one is t, one is f, one is n, and these properties can have different values. Here, hello as for value the string world, t as for value the boolean value true, f as for value the boolean value false, etc. You can have strings, you can have booleans, you can have objects that may be null, you can have integers, you can have floating point numbers, you can have arrays. These arrays can include other things. Here they all contain integers, but they could contain other kind of things. Or a particular property can point to an object which can itself has properties that you can have nested type of objects. And what we're going to see is how we can use rapidjson in order to parse this kind of JSON formats in order to make sense on how to use them and how to use them in C++. And the way we are going to do this is by writing a piece of C++ code that is going uh, to use the rapidjson library in order to parse this kind of file format. And so the thing that we are going to need to do is to include the rapidjson library, because that library is a headers only library. You will only need to include these header files. And so if we actually try to compile this, the first thing that we are going to run into is that that particular file is not going to be found because we have not installed the libraries in our system. The way you install libraries in your system may depend from system to system and from library to library, but one of the good things about headers only library is that you essentially only need to get the header files that are composing the library to be available to your compiler. And here what I am going to do is to download the library on my own machine in order to access its file. This particular library, if you read its documentation, you will find the link to its GitHub. I will clone the GitHub locally, and it is going to install it. And you see that the library here, I downloaded it inside the prgs directory, and inside of it, I just cloned the rapidjson library. And that rapidjson library, the only thing we're going to care about is where the include folder is going to be. And so now if I am going to try to compile my piece of code again, it is still not going to find where the library is because I haven't told the compiler how to find it. The way you usually do this is by passing a -i parameter to your compiler. And whenever you do this, you're essentially telling the compiler whenever you're looking for include files, if you don't find them in the standard places you look for them, you're going to have to look in this particular file. And so I can now compile my application like this, and it's going to work. Now I don't want to have to type these things every single time I'm going to have to compile my code. So I am not going to do this. What I am going to do is to configure a makefile so that these particular parameters that get passed to G++ are going to be passed automatically. So I will create a makefile, and inside of this makefile, I'm going to define the variables that I need. Um, Here, the main thing that I'm going to need to tell G++ is what flags it is going to need to use. And in order to show you a little bit how to do this makefile correctly, I will also define how you can compile my CPP file into an object file. This is the way these makefiles are going to work. You're going to have the name of the things that you're trying to build, followed by a colon, and followed by the things that you're going to need in order to build them. So here what it's going to say is that I'm going to provide to make a recipe that describes how to build rapidtest.o out of rapidtest.cpp. And the way you're going to build this is by invoking this command. $cxx is defined by my system to be G++. The cxx flag is going to be the variable that is defined here. Because I'm trying to build an object file, I need to compile with -c. -o give the name of the output file that I need. $@ is the name of the target of my rule, and $< is the name of the inputs to my file. So now that I have defined it like this, if I set my makefile, I'll be able to call make rapid test.o. Oh, it's rapid, not rapid test. And it is going to automatically reconstruct the correct G++ line in order to add the proper parameters the way they were defined in my makefile. Now, I can't actually run the object file. I actually need to have a proper binary that I'm going to run. Binaries are created out of object files, typically. And so I'm going to define what my linker is. By tradition, it's called LD. And so here, as my linker, I'm going to use G++. And the rule that I'm going to use in order to create my binary rapid, I'm going to create it out of rapid.o. And the rule is you have to call LD, you give it this .o file, and then you tell it to write your output to $@, which is going to be rapid, so that whenever I make rapid, it is, I need to save my makefile, it is going to do the proper line correctly. And so one of the good thing about having makefile is that makefiles are going to automatically figure out how to build things out of other things that it knows how to do. And so right now you can see that I only have my CPP file. If I try to make rapid, it will figure out both how to construct rapid.o and then out of rapid.o how it is going to construct my rapid binary. So this is usually why people like to use makefile whenever their compilation becomes non-trivial, so that you can set all your options properly in variables, so that you can describe how things are going to be built. And once you've figured out the details of how this particular thing is going to be built, you do not have to worry about it again. And so now we have a rapid binary that does absolutely nothing. And so what we wanted to do is to parse our JSON document. And so this is the JSON document we wanted to parse. You can get that document into a string in C++ in any way that you want. You can load it in a variable, you can load it out of a file, you can download it off the network. It doesn't really matter. Here, what I'm simply going to do is simply to load that string into a particular string. And because I am in C++, I'm going to have to escape every single quote that is in this particular string. And I am also going to have to escape, I believe, the end of lines that I'm going to create by adding a backslash at the end of every line. And now I'm going to be able to compile this, which I still miss one. somewhere which is going to look something like this. And now that rapid binary is still doing absolutely nothing because I'm not doing anything with this particular JSON string. It is just defined. And so all the functions that rapidjson is going to have, it's all documented in the tutorial, but the rapid version of this is that every object that you're going to have to use, they are in the rapidjson namespace. So you can include it inside of your function so that it doesn't bleed outside of the function. Fundamentally, what you're going to want to have is a document, which is the core object that is going to store things in rapidjson. You want to create a document out of this particular string. You do that out of C strings and by calling the function parse. And once you're going to have done this, what you will have is I've parsed the content of my JSON into this particular object document. And that will let you do things like get a particular value out of it. Here, for instance, I'm going to get the particular string that is stored in the hello segment of my document. That document is going to represent the content of this JSON string. I'm going to access the hello property of this, and I'm going to read it as a string. So it's going to return it and get casted as a string. And finally, I'm going to be able to output this particular string, maybe on the standard output. I can compile my application. Whenever I'm going to run it, you can see that the content of that hello string is going to be world. So that's in brief how you would use rapidjson in C++. I suggest if you're interested in using this rapidjson library that you actually read the tutorial and have a look at the tutorial and see how it works. In general, I recommend that whenever you use any kind of library, that you actually look at the contents of the documentation of that library to actually know what it can and cannot do. And so here the generic document is the type of documents that you're going to create. And you can see that it actually contains all kind of properties that you're going to want to use, things like the parse functions and things of that sort that are going to define the functions that you can call on these objects in order to extract the data that is in them.